So, it's been a very long weekend, right? What happened? How many of you have gone to the newspaper over the past 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, or today? Yes, so all of you have read the newspaper. Okay, so any important, relevant, not important, because everything is important. So any relevant topic for paper 3, that is economy? Freebies, yeah, the discussion will just go on for around 15-20 days until a new issue comes up. So, yeah, other than that? Inflation related. Inflation is our next topic. After IIP, it is inflation, so we'll discuss it there. Contributed to the project. Okay, so will it come under economy or defense? Why only economy or defense? Why not S&T? It is technology, so it can come under S&T as well. Everything. So, yes, that's what, more or less, that's what we have reiterated while reading MSMEs, that MSMEs have, that is a specific use case where MSMEs have contributed for a defense project. So, but generally speaking, yes, MSMEs are the backbone of defense. It's part of our industrialization. So, MSMEs, yes, they are part of the industrial sector as such. So, they contribute, we have given some statistics that they contribute around 40% of exports, around 20%, 25% of the manufacturing output. So, in that sense, it is the same thing. You pick up that example, just keep whenever you write the examination, it will be something else will be in news. So you just append it that, okay, recently MSMEs have also contributed for defense modernization projects, something like that. But it's just the chances of you being asked like how MSMEs have contributed to the defense modernization of our country. No, you're not writing any defense, unless you're writing a defense examination. You won't be asked such type of questions. Yeah, that's a normal topic. Good afternoon, everyone. Online guys. Murali, Nandita, Shruti, Pavan. Okay. Fine, then let's get back to our normal topic. Before going into IIP, we haven't done different measures. The government has taken different measures to resolve the industrial sickness as such. So one of them has been the passage of SICA Act. Then SICA was having its own problems. See, generally, whatever the resolutions that the government takes, whatever the measures that the government take, starting with SICA 1985, then you have the Debt Recovery Tribunals Act 1992 or 93. Then you have the SURFACE Act 2002. Then you'll also have IBC 2016. What was the question that you were asking the other day after the class? Lohita, yeah. IBC and SURFACE Act, but I haven't introduced IBC yet, right, in that class? Yeah, but it was not IBC, right? No, because I haven't introduced IBC yet. So, difference between bad banks, debt resolution tribunals, not companies as such. Okay, DRT and bad banks. Okay, bad bank as such. Yeah, we'll discuss that. But IBC, we haven't discussed it yet and we haven't introduced it yet. So, except for that one statement where I have said that BIFR has been replaced by NCLT and NCLAT, that is Company Law Appellate Tribunal, after 2016 passage of IBC 2016. Apart from that, we haven't discussed, so let's not jump ahead of it. What was the primary objective of introducing all these provisions or all these acts? It was to resolve the sickness, industrial sickness, right? So one reason why we have to go for industrial sickness, first of all, see, always when you are looking at the larger theme, so this is a theme of industrial sickness. The theme is industrial sickness, and how are we trying to, we as in like the government, how is the government trying to resolve it? So remember the theme, it will be easier to understand the larger things, because you won't be asked about, explain about SURFACI Act or provisions of IBC 2016. No, this is the, if you are looking into the specific provisions as such, you are becoming a specialist. Those will be asked in, if you are taking law or companies law. In fact, yes, there is Companies Act 2013 as well, which has replaced Companies Act 1956. So if you go into the specific provisions, that's not economy. So don't read or don't go and see like what is IBC Code 2016, what are the amendments that have been brought in 2022, because that becomes specific, because it is not at all economy. But the point being, whatever the steps that the government has taken, why did they take? First question is why? To resolve the industrial sickness. To resolve the industrial sickness. Most of the times, it is resulting in the financial stress. Sickness is nothing but when you are unable to break even. So, what kind of financial stress is it? Financial stress in the context of the creditors. The debate is always about, in fact, yes, when we have started the debate of industrial sickness as such, we were talking in terms of reviving the units. So it might appear as if we are on the side of the industry. But when it comes to the implementational aspect of these things, it's not really about the industries or the sick industries which we are trying to energize or revive. Rather, it is all about these creditors. Because these creditors are third parties. They have given loans to the companies. That's the only thing that they have done, which is a good thing. So, without any knowledge of theirs or without any involvement of theirs, their money is going wrong, going waste. It is going into dumps. So, whatever the steps that you have taken, that we are looking at, it is to preserve or to get back whatever is gettable, whatever is revivable. So, reviving of this creditors' money is of importance here. Creditors, who are creditors? Those who have given the loans. So they have given loans to a company. Company has gone into losses. So now they are in a situation where they are losing their money. And it is not their mistake. In fact, it is the mistake of the owners. So though in this entire debate of industrial sickness, though we are saying that it is for the revival of the industries, it is for helping the sick industries to bring them back into green or profit. Yes, that is the last outcome. But what will happen indirectly when a loss-making company becomes profitable company? Who is going to be at an advantage? It's the creditors. Yes, of course, the shareholders and the industry owner is also going to benefit. But that's not the issue. The issue is we need to get back the money of these creditors. So the undercurrent theme that runs in this entire steps that the government has taken is getting back this money, whatever is salvageable, meaning whatever can be get back, can the government or the creditors who have given loans, whatever the amount that they can get back. And generally speaking, what will you try to do? You will try to get as much as possible back, which is meaning we will try to minimize or reduce the haircut as much as possible. Haircut is whatever the loss that the creditor institution is taking, that hit. So our goal will be to minimize the haircut of this financial institutions. It can be a bank, it can be a credit institution, or it might be some other institution. So what we are looking at is improvement of the existing provision whenever this new act is passed. So obviously the powers that are available, the time period that is being taken to resolve an issue, to resolve a sick company issue is generally longer in the existing provisions or in the previous provisions. Let's say you started with SICA. So SICA created BIFR. So the powers, the extent in which BIFR can resolve, they are having limited powers. So the very intention of creating this body was not being met. What will happen if a body which is created to resolve this sickness problem, if it is not working properly, if it is not having proper powers, what will happen? Most of the time there will be delays in the resolution. Delays in the resolution. What do you mean by resolution? Resolution is nothing but debt recovery. Debt recovery. Then sometimes the debt amount, the amount that the creditors have given might be so high that they might not have the technical or domain expertise. Domain expertise. If you remember, BIFR was not initially applicable to all companies of the economy. Remember, initially it was partial or it was phased application of BIFR which the government did. Why do you think that might have happened? Because if you are asking BIFR to resolve every company of the economy, BIFR itself will be overwhelmed by the process because it's a new, the entire organization itself is very new. So it might not have the technical efficiency or technical know-how how to revive that particular industry. So it was a graded application of BIFR to the different sectors and different companies of the economy. So one is that there were delays because they were not having proper powers. Why? Because whatever the BIFR is trying to do, you can simply go to the appellate body of BIFR. If you don't like remember, BFR, Financial Industrial Reconstruction, BFIR, not BIFR, BFIR. So you have BIFR, there was an appellate body over BIFR, if you remember, then these decisions, the decisions of the appellate body of BIFR can be appealed in the high courts, then in the Supreme Courts, meaning the delays were very inordinate in the existing process. To resolve that, what will the government do? The government has passed the DRTs where they have said that, okay, this is the minimum amount that you can take. That minimum account can be 1 lakh or 10 lakhs. But for example, take it as 1 lakh. Meaning if you have given 1 lakh to a company and the company is not paying you back, then you can take the case to the debt recovery tribunals. Meaning there will be quantitative limits because a 50,000 guy can't take this company to DRT, because if that is the case, then DRT will again be overwhelmed. In the case of SICA, every other guy was taking companies to BFIR, meaning even small credit denominations, even debts of small amounts were being dragged to the BFIR courts, which will invariably cause what? Loss of resources. Why to waste resources of BFR on such small issues? That was one reason for the backlog of issues, but for the backlog of cases. So what did the government do? The government simply said that, okay, from now onwards, only 1 lakh rupees of debt cases will be admitted. So quantitative limits on the debt amounts or the credit amount has been imposed. Then there was no time-bound resolution of the cases earlier. So with DRTs, it said that, okay, now you have to resolve it in 90 days. You have to resolve it in 90 days. For example, I'm just taking it as an example. Don't get into, because it will be very confusing. DRTs will have one limit, SURFACE will have another limit, then IBC will have another limit. And no, UPSC will not ask you then these number-based questions, data-based questions. So there will be a time-bound redressal of the cases. First one was a quantitative limit which will be imposed. Then there will be time-bound. Then there will be inclusion of experts, because reviving a company or liquidating a company is a very complex task. Who are these? The creditors, the banks or financial institutions. They are not equipped to run the company or to close down a company. So in this entire process, you need the help of the experts. So when you come to SARFAESI Act later on, so the SARFAESI Act will give better powers, will give more powers to these banks and financial institutions. Banks and financial institutions. Why? Because even when DRT was there, it was still whatever the updates that the government wanted to do or tried to do did not really give the desired benefits or the intended effect on the ground. For which purpose the government said that, okay, we are particularly for banks and financial institutions, we are giving additional powers. Why did that come up? Because during these DRT days, a creditor was taking a company to a DRT, right? For what? What is the goal? To recover his debt, whatever the debt he has given. Most often than not, even after recovery of the debt, let's say the DRT court has adjudicated saying that, okay, you have to pay this much of amount. Let's say he has taken 100 rupees. So pay as much as you can. This guy may be in a position to pay only 10 or 20 rupees. So who is losing? That too after a lot of cases, of a lot of time in the courts. So the very intention of recovering as much money as possible of the creditors was not resolved through DRTs. So it was in such a situation that the government passed SARFAESI, where the government said that whenever you are taking a loan, everyone will give some kind of security or collateral, right? So now the government is saying that since this entire process of DRTs was not really helping you, don't write anything, it's for you, just listen first. Since these DRTs were not helping in the way that was expected, in a way that was expected by the government passed this SARFAESI Act, which will give more powers compared to the DRTs, compared to the DRT law. So what can be powers, more powers? Whatever this collateral has been provided by the person who is taking the loan, by the company who is taking the loan, this particular act gives you power to go and seize this asset, sell this asset according to the debt provisions. To recollect the debt amount, you can directly go and sell this collateral amount. Until then, there was no such power for the banks. So whenever the banks used to go to DRT, or whenever the DRT used to give some kind of order, then these guys immediately appealed. The owners used to appeal in the appellate tribunal or in the high courts above the appellate tribunal. So to resolve that particular issue, the government said that, okay, fine, if you are doing that, we are going to do this, because end of the day, banks should not lose money. Anyone who has given money should not lose money. So under the SARFAESI Act, if you look at the provisions of the SARFAESI Act, the bank has to give 60 days of time. After the due date, the bank has to give a notice that pay within 60 days or else I am going to sell off the collateral. If there is no response, they can immediately start the process of taking this collateral for the loan. Of course, to do this, the bank has to go and get an order from DRT. To do this process, the bank has to go to DRT, get an order from DRT. Why do you think that particular provision was inserted? Earlier, when the bank was going to the DRT, they never had the power of this SARFAESI Act. So, the owner of the company also used to go to the DRT or appeal to the DRT. But now that SARFAESI Act is there, this person or the bank which is invoking the collateral, meaning when they say that I am going to sell off the collateral, they are getting the order from DRT itself. So when the industry owner, now he can't go to DRT again, because it's the same body which has allowed to sell off this asset. Meaning time is being reduced, time taken to resolve the debt crisis is being reduced with this provision. right? So that's the improvement that the government always tries to do. So is the case with IBC. Companies Act 2013 has created a new set of rules, regulations, which are not important for us. Don't worry about it. But IBC 2016, again, it is an improvement over SURFACE. It is an improvement over SURFACE. When SURFACE came, then it replaced SICA and BFIR, Board of Industrial and Financial Regulation, or Board of Financial Industry, whatever it is. So when SURFACE was passed, these were replaced. But when IBC was passed, this was not. So what is IBC? IBC, it wanted to streamline this entire process of resolution. There are some fundamental differences. Don't go into the technical differences. You will not be asked. Nobody needs to know about those technical differences unless you are a law student. One rule that the government has put, if you want to go or if you want to invoke the IBC 2016, that loan amount, the quantitative restriction has to be 1 crore now under 2016. Meaning loans only above or equal to 1 crore will be entertained under IBC 2016. If they are less than that, go to SURFACE. That's one primary difference. Second primary difference being SURFACE or DRTs, which are there even today. The main reason why any creditor or the company itself, anyone can go to DRT. The main reason was to get back the debt, as much debt as possible, to recover as much debt as possible. In this process, closing up and liquidation of the company is only it's only a collateral damage, or it is only one of the outcomes. If possible, let the company run while recollecting the debt. But the very reason why IBC is invoked is to completely liquidate. Once you have invoked IBC, the chances of the company being revived are very less. And once you have undergone that process of liquidation through IBC, this entire process is irreversible. Means once the IBC suggests, under IBC has created many bodies, just like how you had this BFIR, IBC has created Insolvency Board of India, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, which oversees this entire process. Then we have also said that the goal of the government is to include as many experts as possible in this process. So IBC, which is implemented by that IBBI, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, it introduces the concept of IPs, or insolvency professionals. Then this board also, we are also having a problem of time limit, meaning inordinate delays are happening in this resolution process. So IBC specifically mentions that it should be finished within 180 to 260 days, if I'm not wrong. So the theme is always the same, meaning get back as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, reduce the burden on the existing institutions, minimize the haircut as much as possible, take experts' help, because if it is not the expert who is helping in this entire process, what will be the problem? Then there might be allegations of corruption, then the entire process itself might not be efficient. So whatever it was always the entire theme of all this industrial reconstruction has been the same. In fact, there are many other institutions which were also created as part of this entire process. Even before SICA, there was an organization, Industrial Reconstruction Corporation of India, which was established in 1972. As the name says, Industrial Reconstruction Corporation. What will it do? It will find out these SIC units. Every SIC unit, what is the first thing that it requires to run? Capital. So this body used to provide capital to these SIC units. That is also part of reform, so that they can bring the SIC unit into good health again. Then later on in 1980s, this Industrial Reconstruction Corporation has been converted into a bank, Industrial Reconstruction Bank of India. The purpose is the same. Earlier it was a corporation, meaning it will have limited powers. Now it has become a bank. Bank means it can raise capital, it can give loans, it can put money in these SIC units. So whatever it is, the goal, in fact, I have forgot one another goal of this theme, this entire theme of industrial reconstruction. The idea is that you don't want your capital to remain in these SIC industries and remain idle. Because capital is very scarce. You want capital to create more wealth. So even if you have, let's say, the entire company was worth 100 rupees, but because of the industrial, this sickness, that 100 might have reduced to 50. It is better to take this 50 out by liquidation and then use this 50, create another company, make 50 into 100, right? So this entire resolution process will also help in efficient allocation of capital. Take out this capital which has been stuck in the economy in these loss-making companies or inefficient companies. So take out the capital, put that capital into good use, thereby creating more wealth. So if your capital gets stuck, that is also a problem. So this is the theme. Even if you are asked a question, you won't be asked. Trust me, you won't be asked. If you say that, sir, what if we asked, then you have to read the provisions of each and every act, which is waste of time. That's a hypothetical question. What if they ask? They won't ask because this is a generalist examination. Unless a particular, let's say IBC 2016 is there. If some big thing happens and if it is in news continuously every day, then yes, it becomes important. Because if it is news every day, it means it's not a specialist issue. It is a generalist issue which is affecting as many sectors, as many people as possible. That's the difference between finding out what is a generalist issue and what is a specialist issue. That's it. So these are the things generally that you need to remember when you are looking at this entire theme of industrial sickness. Industrial sickness is always associated with industrial reconstruction. Industrial reconstruction, of course, is to help revive the SIC units. At the same time, it is also the primary goal is to bring justice to the creditors. Meaning repay their debt as much as possible with a minimum haircut. The IBC in here, because it becomes really confusing and it's a very complex topic to explain in one class, which is not required first of all. Industrial sickness or insolvency, because IBC stands for insolvency and bankruptcy. The main aim of which is to start the liquidation process. What are these words? Of course, they are technical words. They are not even economy words, they are finance related words. But most of the times you must have heard the word IP. Somebody has put IP. In our normal day-to-day conversations, your family also, sometimes they might have used, like some guy has put IP and he's absconding now. What is that? The idea of insolvency is, the opposite of insolvency is solvency. Meaning, what is this idea? If you are not in a position to repay your debts because of some financial problems, because of some reasons, if an individual or a company, if they are not in a position to honor their payments, or to repay the debt, then as long as you are able to repay, you are in a solvent position. If you are not able to repay your payment obligations, if you are not able to repay your payment commitments, honor your payment commitments, then such a situation is known as insolvency. It is only a situation where you are not able to repay your debts. Generally, insolvency can result in two situations. One is bankruptcy and the second one is liquidation. Insolvency is a situation, is a condition which may result into bankruptcy and or liquidation. First of all, there is no need of every insolvent situation resulting in bankruptcy. Remember that. What do you mean by insolvency? When I'm not able to honor my payment commitments. Let's say this 1 month I have certain dues that need to be paid. But because of some reason, because of some factors, I'm not able to pay that commitment, pay that payments. I can just borrow for that 1 month. So then I can make the payment and repay the debt in small amounts later on, which means my insolvent situation is now become solvent again. There was no need of going into bankruptcy. Insolvency is when I am not able to pay this month's payments. But I can borrow, or let's say I can sell some asset of mine to repay that debt, that payment, whatever the payment that is there. I can arrange some alternative ways to make myself solvent again. In that case, you don't have to go for to these two things, which means insolvency need not result into bankruptcy. So what is bankruptcy? Insolvency is when I declare myself that I have become insolvent. Then I apply to whatever the organization, whatever the body that is there, which is overseeing these issues of insolvency. Then I ask them that please declare me as insolvent. If this body gives me legal recognition, gives a legal recognition that I am insolvent, that is known as bankruptcy. That is known as you can't understand each and every sentence. I'll explain that. Insolvency, I will ask, let's say there is a body, because I can't just say that, okay, I'm insolvent, I can't pay your debts, don't ask me. That won't happen. Somebody from the government has to really recognize that I am really insolvent. Why am I saying that I am insolvent? To protect myself from these creditors. క్రెడిటర్స్ ఎవరైతే ఉంటారో వాళ్ళు వచ్చి నా ఇంటి ముందు కూర్చోకుండా ప్రొటెక్షన్ అన్నమాట. ఐపీ పెట్టడము అని అంటే ఇట్స్ ఎ ప్రొటెక్షన్ అగైన్స్ ద డిమాండ్స్ ఆఫ్ ద క్రెడిటర్స్. Why? Because if once I declare IP or insolvency petition, what is petition? You are petitioning to someone. Generally that someone is a quasi-judicial body. That body may or may not accept your insolvency petition. Because if they realize that, let's say you have done some mischief, you have done some scam, you have just diverted all the money and now you are acting that, okay, I have gone into losses, I can't pay them back. But the body which you have petitioned for, that body can find that out. If it finds out, it won't give you the protection of this insolvency. Then they will, so if it is not giving you, then that's a different debate altogether. Let's not go into that side. But generally speaking, an insolvent situation, if it is legally recognized, then that process is known as bankruptcy. Because mine may be a genuine case where I am unable to pay the debts. So I shouldn't be harassed, or I shouldn't be asked, or I shouldn't be forced. In that case, I'll go and apply for bankruptcy protection. It is called as bankruptcy protection. What is bankruptcy? It is a legal process. It is a formal process whereby you will be given protection from the demands of the creditors. That's it.